Many red states will denounce the effort, and this will accelerate the splintering of the United States of America as red states realize that they can no longer maintain any allegiance to a criminal swamp cabal that recognizes no limits of governmental power. Are we there yet? Hey everybody, thanks for joining. Listen, I know this video is long. You can see it from the beginning, but I think that it's very important to watch the whole thing. Let me point out a couple of timestamps if you want to skip ahead. At 5 minutes and 20 seconds, I mentioned Stephen Ben-Nun, Israeli News Live, and his prophetic insight. At 7 minutes 15 seconds, I talk about the DHS, Department of Homeland Security National Terrorism Advisory Bulletin that just came out yesterday or Friday. And at 13 minutes 25 seconds, I described the 6-point plan that is allegedly one that the Biden administration is planning on using to create a false flag. And in between is what I believe is insightful commentary by yours truly, RWP. So please watch, please listen, or at the very least, skip to those points if you don't want to watch all 17 or so minutes. Thank you so much. Anybody know? Anybody know what this is? Leave it in the comments. Anybody knows what that is? And that's old school right there. I am over on Patreon too for you guys that didn't know that. Hey, by the way, for the guy that I met today in the sports store, if you're watching, or your brother, leave a comment. What's up? Good to have you. Hey folks, let's take a ride. Hey everybody, it's RWP. I'm the Real World Prepper. Thanks for riding along. I didn't show you all the details of the trip, but it was nothing very exciting. I went to the local sporting goods store. Then I also had to go get some feed for the chickens. And by the way, the two feed stores in the little town nearby, there's two main feed stores, and then there's a TSC. Excuse me. Both feed stores were out completely of chicken feed. And the one I frequent said we may have some Tuesday. We're supposed to. I just don't know. So we're completely out. I've never experienced that before. So I ended up going to TSC, paying $5 a bag more than I'm used to. Again, kind of like what Guns Coast to Coast says regarding ammo. If you pay a little more for it, so be it. Get it. And we needed it, the feed, so I bought it, and I went ahead and bought 200 pounds. So anyway, just like with everything we're doing, we're prepping, we're stacking, we're adding. But this brings me to a couple of things I want to talk about. I try not to get into this scary, fear, end of the world stuff, and so I'm not going to do that. However, I am going to share with you some reports that have been shared with me. One is some information from DHS itself website. Another comes from another website, Natural News. If any of you know it, take it for what you will. But I have heard similar things going on throughout the last several weeks, month or so. So like I was saying about the feed, they were out of feed. And like I was saying about the sporting goods store, they were not entirely out of ammunition, but they were out of some mainstays. And what they did have, frankly, were overpriced. Again, back to what GC2C says, get it while you can, regardless of the price. This leads me to talk about the shortages. Food shortages, supply shortages, raw materials shortages, circuits made in China shortages, disruptions in the supply chain, in logistics, in trucking, in delivery, etc., etc. Do you guys really think that these shortages are genuine, that they're naturally occurring, that they're organic, in that they're really happening because we don't have enough workers, or too many places are shut down because of the virus and so on and so forth? Or do you think like I do, in that this is a planned and manufactured shortage, a deliberate shortage? Well, I do. I think this is part of a grander plan, and I'm going to expound on this, part of a grander plan to not only keep us locked down, locked in, masked up, everybody after you to go jabby jab, jab, right? And it's raising itself to a fever pitch. We all already know that there's division in America, right? Largely two big sides. I know there's subsects of it, but two big sides really, okay? Well, that division is increasing, and it's going to actually start to redivide as they horn in on anti-vaxxers. Anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, what they would call Trumpers, whether or not that's true or not, but that's what they call us. That's right. White, right, conservative, males, straight, Christians. They will not be the only targets, but they are public enemy number one. Okay, so Stephen Ben-Nun at Israeli News Live. I like this guy. He's pretty good, in my opinion, at deciphering prophecy and how it applies to what's going on today, lacing it all together. He contends that this whole thing in the Middle East that's going on, the Taliban rising, they're going to be supported, of course, by Iran and likely Turkey, in his opinion, and he believes Israel. Now, we're talking about not the ones who suffer in Israel, not the ones, the everyday pleb in Israel, but those that run the show in Israel. And that they will carry out the next few weeks, months, however long, worth of agenda over there, worth of moving people around, moving things around, shifting power around, to where it will appear to be biblical prophecy, which, again, this guy, Stephen Ben-Nun, Israeli News Live, believes is false, will be a false flag, will be meant to deceive us all and lead us into more conflict that we don't need to be in. Now, all this stuff kind of couples together, because really what you got is you got the whole world tense. You got the whole world up in arms. Let me read you something from the DHS report that came out. Look at this. DHS Bulletin, National Terrorism Advisory System Bulletin. Summary of terrorism threats to the U.S. homeland. This was issued yesterday, Friday the 13th of 2021. They start this thing off by saying that leading up to the 20th anniversary of September 11th, which of course is this year, that could serve as a catalyst for targeted violence. The threats, and this is by DHS now, just a reminder. These threats include those posed by domestic terrorists, individuals and groups engaged in grievance-based violence, and those inspired or motivated by foreign terrorists and other malign foreign influences. These actors are increasingly exploiting online forums to influence and spread violent extremist narratives and promote violent activity. Such threats are also exacerbated by impact of the ongoing global pandemic, including grievances over public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions. So I'm not going to read this whole report, but if you'll go down and read it, the first paragraph in additional details, and there's many. Towards the bottom of that paragraph, it goes on. It says, these extremists may seek to exploit the emergence of COVID-19 variants by viewing the potential reestablishment of public health restrictions across the United States as a rationale to conduct attacks. Pandemic-related stressors have contributed to an increased societal strain and tension, driving several plots by domestic violent extremists, and they may continue to do more violence this year. Okay, so they're acknowledging that people are fed up, people have had enough, people are stressed out. These are all true. These things are true for many, for most. But they've gone ahead and put it into the ether, right? Into the talking points. It's been going on, but it's growing at an exponential rate too, I might add. All this craziness. I'm going to sidetrack for a second like I often do. All of the things that are going on, we can't go a day without hearing something new or some new angle or facet of just everything that's going on, right? What's going on with terrorism abroad and domestically, right? Racism abroad, but more specifically domestically. The virus and the new variant and the variant after that and the variant after that, they're all coming. The anti-vaxxers, the pro-vaxxers, the anti-maskers, the pro-maskers, the science versus non-science, which I think is a non sequitur anyway, because, you know, those that they claim are anti-science, they're not anti-science. They understand that science is not absolute. You know, science builds upon itself, okay? At any rate, that was my sidetrack. Now, in this Natural News article, right there, it says, and again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just sharing this with you guys. I want you to kind of be aware, dipping your finger in the water to know what the temperature is, right? Putting your finger on the pulse of our society. The title of this is, The Coming Delta Lockdown is Designed to Invoke Nationwide Protests so that they can be exploited as a backdrop for false flag events to blame, quote, anti-vaxxers. He goes on to say that within the next 12 days, many sources have told us that the President, Joe Biden, will announce a nationwide lockdown, fraudulently blaming the Delta variant and anti-vaxxers for the overzealous action. The lockdown will have no specific end date and is likely to be strongly resisted by red states, go figure, while blue states will effectively be turned into medical police states with brutal enforcement of lockdown measures. So more importantly, it says, the new lockdown will be perceived as so overreaching and totalitarian that nationwide protests will commence. And this is actually part of the plan, according to Mike Adams and this website. The lockdown push is being engineered to invoke backlash even among leftists who will join conservatives in taking to the streets to protest this tyranny. Now, did you hear what I just said? I don't disagree that if something like this happens, you know, if they get strong-handed enough, that, yeah, some on the left will indeed be like, whoa, 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 hold up, you know. But here's the crux. Here's where the rubber meets the road with this. The backdrop of the nationwide protest is the setting needed by the deep state to stage a violent false flag event. Likely some type of medical facility or medical group of some kind. The FBI will be running this, according to this website, just like they ran the Whitmer kidnapping in Michigan, just as well as they ran the January 6th Capitol siege, the insurrection, as it were, as a false flag operation. Now, that's this guy's insinuation. Again, I'm not saying I disagree with him. I'm just making sure I'm saying that I am just talking about what somebody else is saying and sharing that info with you. Let's see. So nearly every act of terrorism in America over the last 2 decades has been plotted and spearheaded, according to this website, by the corrupt FBI. And there's little question that they are planning a new theatrical caper to blame on the so-called anti-vaxxers. Here's how they contend that this plan will work and the steps that it will follow. Step 1, Biden announces a nationwide overreaching lockdown. Step 2, Americans react against the tyranny and take to the streets in peaceful protests. Step 3, what does that look like? Peaceful protest. Let's see. Depends on who's doing it, right? Step 3, the criminal Biden regime exploits the chaos of the protests to stage a violent false flag attack, likely against a medical facility, so that blame can be placed on gun owners who are also anti-vaxxers. CNN and other news outlets will run with the staged footage claiming anti-vaxxers are terrorists. The entire media jumps on the engineered narrative to whip up the mass hysteria and hatred against the unvaccinated. Now, do you see that happening now? The hatred against the unvaccinated. That's already happening, okay? This further divides America while the media whips up the emotions to insane levels. Step 5, Biden uses the emotional hysteria to issue an executive order outlawing all gun ownership by civilians. Yes, it's illegal and unconstitutional, but according to this website, he will try it. Many red states will denounce the effort, and this will accelerate the splintering of the United States of America as red states realize that they can no longer maintain any allegiance to a criminal swamp cabal that recognizes no limits of governmental power. Are we there yet? Step 6, Biden launches door-to-door strike force teams, now heavily armed, after the false flag theater to forcibly vaccinate people at gunpoint and confiscate their firearms. So again, sharing information from other sources. Parts of it I agree with. Parts of it I'm on the fence about. Most of it, I take with a grain of salt. The point here that I would like to make, that RWP would like to make to you, is that we have got to be on our guard. We have got to be watching our six. We have got to keep our heads on a swivel, to use all of those terms. We got to do the things, right? All that. You better be preparing. You better be stacking everything. You better be figuring out how you're going to make it when you can't travel, when you can't work, when you can't go buy anything, right? When people potentially are coming to your doors. Now again, I'm not trying to stir up a frenzy here, okay? But if we look at the pace of all this stuff that's going on and really pay attention, I don't know, guys. So I'm praying. I'm living my life best I can, taking care of my family the best I can, loving and serving my God as best as I can, and keeping my eyes open. Stacking deep, baby. Hope you guys are too. Anybody know what this is? Leave it in the comments. Anybody knows what that is? And that's old school right there. But anyway, look, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much. I am over on Patreon too for you guys that didn't know that. Hey, by the way, for the guy that I met today in the sports store, if you're watching, or your brother, leave a comment. What's up? Good to have you. Thanks so much, guys. Real World Prepper. See you next time.